Tonight, the Mets start a four-city, 10-game road trip where they're going to travel over 8,000 miles once they return back to Queens. But can they stay hot away from Citi Field? I'm bringing in my guy, Jake Brown, of the Sick Mets Magic podcast to see if that Sick Mets Magic can still go down on the West Coast. My guy, you see how I plugged you there? You see that? You see, that's why you're my guy right there. What's happening?
Yeah, well, traveling that much would get me sick. You know, they fly private first class. If they were flying like us, Brandon, they'd be racking up the miles and get a few free flights. What did MLB do to the Mets for them to deserve this?
Yeah, I got a lot of United points, so I get bumped up every once in a while. So shout out to United. Before we talk about the road trip and we preview this Angel series, the Mets are getting closer to getting some key guys back into the lineup. We're talking Sean Reid-Foley. He's already started his rehab assignment, and Starling Marte starts his next week. Jake, how big of an impact you think these guys are going to make when they're back?
Yeah, it's huge because Sean Reid-Foley, a lot of people forget, was the best Mets reliever, and it was over 21-plus innings. He had a 1.63 ERA. He is a critical part of this bullpen and one of the final pieces. They're still waiting for Daniel Nunez to come back. It looks like he might throw at some point any day now. We'll find out, but he's probably at least a week or two away. But Reid-Foley, 3 strikeouts looking in Double-A in rehab the other day. He's a massive piece. We know what they did at the deadline. They added pieces. Now you add another one. It's kind of like an extra trade deadline acquisition in Reid-Foley. Starling Marte. This is a guy who frustrated a lot of Mets fans with his defense, lazy at times. Everyone remembers the ball in London he didn't get to. But Starling Marte was a good hitter. He was a 280 hitter for this team. You add him to an outfield that now has Jesse Winker, and the Mets have so much flexibility and room to grow in the outfield. They're 5-6 guys deep, with Bader, with Nimmo, with Marte, with Winker, with Tyrone Taylor. And Jeff McNeil is kind of your 6th outfielder. This is a team that will now have depth with Marte back, have options late in games. If they decide not to start Marte, he could come off as a pinch hitter, a pinch runner. You have a lot of wiggle room here, and that's what a team fighting for a playoff spot needs. They need 1 through 26, and they're going to get a few of those big ones back.
Let's say both Reid-Foley and Marte come back hot. Like you said, they've got a lot of depth. There's crowded rooms in both of these guys' position rooms. Who would be the odd man out in that case? Who are they knocking out of the lineup?
Yeah, it's going to be tough. I mean, Winker's probably not going to play ever against lefties. Starling Marte is going to play against lefties. And then when Reid-Foley comes back, they got to decide. They're probably going to get rid of one of these lefties. And then when Nunez comes back, do they get rid of both? Young and Young. They got the law firm, Alex, Danny. Do they want to keep one lefty so they have a lefty? Do they finally DFA Adam Ottavino? I know that's something Mets fans have been waiting for. A veteran's pitched a little bit better lately. I don't know if they want to get rid of Ottavino and lose that veteran. So I think one of the Youngs is going to go, probably Alex Young. They keep Danny. When Danielle comes back, they're going to have a tough decision to make with the rest of the bullpen. And then Marte, I think that means less time, unfortunately, for Candelita, OMG, because Jeff McNeil's bats come alive. And I think, Iglesias has come down to earth a little bit the last couple of weeks. Unfortunately, Iglesias is going to lose playing time because McNeil's going to have to play on the infield. The outfield is going to have 5 guys. It's not the worst thing in the world to have too many guys. And also in a week or two, who knows? Maybe someone else gets hurt. You can't predict the future.
Damn, the OMG guy gets the seat. He's the reason why they're hot right now. You were talking about the lefties. They kick off their 10-day road trip on the left coast tonight. What would you consider a good or a great road trip?
Yeah, I think you got to go 7-3 here. I think 5-5 is unacceptable. 6-4 is fine. The key is winning that game in St. Louis. St. Louis is a team that's on your tail, and the wild card is tough. You lose one game, you're immediately a game and a half out. Like the Mets were right there at the top wild card spot on Friday. You saw me on TV on SNY holding up the OMG sign. I got a million texts, a million tweets. Look, it's Jake behind the dugout. Then I go to the suite. What happens? Senga, tears his calf. He's out for the regular season. Everything went downhill after that. But things change day in, day out. So you really got to go 7-3 here. You got to go out and either win 2 out of 3 or sweep the Angels, win that game in St. Louis, win 2 out of 3 in Colorado, and then hope to win 2 out of 3 against the Seattle team that's tied for first place. This is a huge trip because after this, the Mets will face 22 of 35 teams over 500. The schedule gets tough. They return home. They get some easy games. but no game is really easy at this point of the season. Even the Angels, not an easy series. Colorado, they have a decent offense, not an easy series. And Seattle, a team that's fighting for a division title, won't be an easy series. But 6-4 at worst, 7-3 is what I'm looking for the Mets to go into this West Coast trip.
Dude, you just admitted that you're the reason Kodai Senga got hurt. You jinxed the man. When you're amongst the Jake Brown, when you're amongst the people, everything's going good. Then you go to the suite, corporate life. You put a suit on, and the man gets hurt. That's on you, bro.
I think you're mixing me up with the other bald guy at SNY, Sal Licata, whose tweet, broke the internet for saying that the Mets won the wild card. So I'm not going to take the bald blame. I'll let Sal take the bald blame.
All right, shout out to Sal. He's a good dude, too. All right, let's break down this series that kicks off tonight on the West Coast. They got the Angels. What are your thoughts on this series?
Yeah, it's one of those rare times you get a starter and he faces the same team he just faced. I mean, Paul Blackburn comes here. His last start, which was his first start back from foot injury, he was out for 2 months, was against the Angels, and now he's facing them again in a different league. I mean, that is very strange because the Mets don't play the Angels often. So I'm looking for Blackburn to rebound. I know he won, but he gave up 4 runs. The Mets need a quality start out of him. Give him 6 innings, 3 runs. That's what the Mets are looking for. He's the second righty in this rotation. It's a lefty-heavy rotation. You get Peterson, Quintana the rest of the series, Minaya on Monday. Go out and get the bats cooking here. Get the bats swinging. I want to see Jesse Winker hit his first Mets homer. It probably won't be Friday night against the lefty. Tyler Anderson's a good pitcher. They're facing a couple good pitchers in Anderson and Soriano, who's been solid this season. But I look for the Mets to go in there, get the job done. I think a sweep would be a tremendous kickoff to the series. It gives you a lot more wiggle room the rest of the trip. But, the Angels aren't terrible. They're 15 under. They're not like Colorado, who's 30 under. So I think they take 2 out of 3. I think Blackburn knows this lineup well. He's faced them a lot coming from the A's and the AL West. He knows the Angels. So the Mets take 2 out of 3 against the Angels.
In the words of Biggie Smalls, they're going back to Cali. Hey, shout out your platform. Tell the people where they can find you.
You could have done a little PJ, little Angels in the Outfield reference, one of the most underrated baseball movies of all time. The Sick Podcast, Mets Magic, at SickPod Mets on X, Jake Brown Radio. Make sure you're subscribed, and we'll have a show every week.
All right, man. Appreciate you hopping on with us.
Thanks for having me.